Hello YouTube. I'm a fan of the flying spaghetti monster. I like the absurd logic of it all. It's a fantastic tool of ridicule. I can't speak for anywhere else in the world, but it's not a particularly well-known symbol or idea here in the UK, which is why I was pleased to see his ragu-laden appendages in the national press today, albeit the context was pretty depressing. I'm taking the story from an article written by Ian Dunt at politics.co.uk, although it appears in numerous publications in the national press. The story, as Ian writes it, is as follows. Secular students at a London university have had a poster featuring a flying spaghetti monster banned by union officials out of fear it would cause offence to religious students. Union officials at the London South Bank University removed the posters from the Society's stall overnight and then barred representatives from printing off more. No idea how you stop somebody printing something, but there we are. Citing the visibility of Adam's genitals as offensive. But when Society members offered to blur out the genitals, they were told that the problem with the poster concerned religious offence. I think we probably knew that from the start. The excuse of the offensive genitals is a ridiculous one. This is a poster which has been around the internet for some considerable time. It features the Michelangelo painting from the Sistine Chapel, the creation of Adam, and in the place of a number of the characters you have the spaghetti monster reaching out his appendages. Now, the genitals bit is funny. Of course it's funny, for a number of reasons. One, just because of the use of the word genitals. Number two, because it conjures the idea of classical paintings featuring large, nude old ladies and strangely proportioned muscular men as being somehow offensive and dubious. I, for one, have never seen, and I hope nobody else has, professors wandering around art galleries and then nipping off to the toilets with a copy of the catalogue or a couple of prints from the gallery shop for a quick wank. But what's actually most funny is this. It shows an enormous discomfort on the part of the union officials at their real motive. It suggests they knew how absurd the motive that was actually behind their actions was, i.e. the motive being that they thought that this poster was religiously offensive. They actually seem to take the view that it is less embarrassing, less uncomfortable, less awkward to say that something should be removed because it's got a pair of bollocks on it or a floppy penis, than to actually come out with the truth and say, we don't like this because it's poking a bit of fun at religion. Now, it's not entirely clear who did this, but it appears to be the student union rather than somebody who'd come along and claimed particular offence. I think this is a repeat feature of society these days, and it's one which isn't straightforward, as some would like to say. People seek to take vicarious offence on behalf of others, which in principle seems absurd. However, trying to prevent offence in itself isn't so absurd and can be an absolutely laudable aim at times. Going out to cause offence is a pretty unpleasant thing to do. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. I believe in free speech and I oppose censorship, but the basic premise of political correctness isn't all bad. Finding decent, polite ways of talking about things so as not to antagonise can clearly be a good thing, but I think that the concept gets overextended and misused. What the Students' Union at South Bank did was utterly absurd and unacceptable. Of course, the image was provocative, but that was the whole point, and it was a justified one. This wasn't a poster saying, hey, if you believe in God, you're a fucking idiot and we hope you drown in a slurry tank. This was a relatively clever, witty poster with a surprising juxtaposition of images, the spaghetti monster and the classic religious piece of art, and it's designed to provoke thought and to challenge the idea that religion and its paintings and its articles and its ideas should somehow be completely sacrosanct, and that is something that we all support. Now, it's tempting very tempting to launch into an amazing atheist-style rant here. I could jump up and down, use lots of expletives and talk about how ridiculous this whole thing is. But standing back from it, you have to say that the motives of the people who did this were probably sound. Preventing offence, limiting divisiveness, and making the place, the university in this instance, a welcoming and comfortable place for all where nobody's going to be singled out or attacked for their religion or culture. Well, that's a good thing. The wider picture says that is often a good thing. In many instances, that's a good thing. If everybody gets along better, we all benefit, even if some of us can sit smugly in the corner knowing the other lot are wrong whilst that happens. Thing is, where religion is concerned, in my view, the damage done by this sort of accommodationism outweighs those benefits in the long run. Religion is not a rational thing, and if it's encouraged to believe in its entitlement to privilege and special protection, that sense of entitlement is simply going to get stronger and stronger. That's dangerous and it's bad. Now, this ties into a lot of the debate about Islam, going back to the Danish cartoons and the ideas espoused by people behind the Draw Muhammad campaign and so on. Google that if you need to. It's an interesting idea and it's an interesting debate with a lot of grey areas. But I'm not going there today. It's a huge topic. Today, I'm interested in the seemingly benign position and privilege of Christian religion in the UK. Yeah, okay. As Richard Dawkins has commented on occasion, the Church of England is a pretty benign creature. But it's not completely benign. It's not as benign as people would make out. We don't have a Bible Belt or the mad religious right as they do in the States, but there's still plenty of scope for grief and problems, and one only needs to look at things such as the troubles in Northern Ireland to see that, or even the sectarian divisions between Glasgow football clubs, which I think much of the world who's unfamiliar with that situation would find astounding in what is, on the outside at least, a pretty secular, hopefully democratic and reasonable and free country. So it's a real thing. It's a real influence that is impacting upon everybody in this nation, despite the superficially secular outward appearance. Here's the problem. Religions enjoy privilege. They enjoy special protection the rest of us just don't get. The people behind those religions often, I suspect, don't even know that that's what they've got. They don't realise that they have that privileged position. They think that they're under some sort of secular attack and that they need to defend their boundaries against the oncoming atheist onslaught. Bollocks! Stay out of our space and we're happy to stay out of yours. It's as simple as that. But the reality is the boundaries that they think they're fighting for are way over where they should be. They're encroaching. What they're really doing here is protecting their position of privilege and influence against people fighting to push back against it and fighting to reduce it, fighting not to be imposed upon and not to have their family, friends or children imposed upon, except where those people are old enough, informed enough, and understand enough to make sensible decisions about that. In Northern Ireland recently, the Reduced Shakespeare Company, which is a theatre group which puts on witty, irreverent performances of various things in hugely shortened version. That's part of the joke. They shrink down Shakespeare plays to half an hour, and they become quite entertaining and funny as a result. They were going to do a shortened Bible story, and in Northern Ireland, part of the United Kingdom, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, in 2014, that performance was banned in one town because there was pressure from religious groups and expectations of protection for the religion by those religious groups, and that was supported by local authorities. In our schools, religions are entitled to get in early to embed their messages and their dogma in our children. This is 2014 and faith schools are still being actively encouraged. I could just about accept a position where private schools do their own thing, privately funded, although obviously there are child protection issues there that bother me, and not just those about Catholic priests and their apparent propensity for kiddie fiddling. The wider issue of protecting children against information which is not factual but is presented to them as factual, I think is a big issue which needs to be talked about more, and it's something I would like to come to in another video at some stage. The reality, even now, in publicly funded schools, the schools that we all have to send our children to very often, there are secular options, but in many places there aren't, is that religion is part of the daily routine. It's supposed to be promoted by way of a morning assembly. It is promoted by teachers. Now, that's where we have problems, because teachers are people on whom children rely utterly for their information about the world. They rely utterly on those teachers telling them facts and information and skills that allow the children to understand and tackle the world. And where religious information is presented to them with no delineation between the two, it's no surprise when they come home and they believe in these things, because everything else the teachers are telling them is true, and we're encouraging them to learn and listen. That is, as I say, a much wider topic, but it illustrates the privilege point which I'm trying to make. Now, another example is the protection religions still get, and the obvious example of that is the basic discrimination laws, where religion has a special position. Nowhere else in our society can you get away with discriminating against gay people or women. But if you're in a religion, if you have a valid long-term religion, then you get exemptions from these things, and you can do so. And don't get me started on the tax exemptions the sods have. That's another matter again. Now, this is why I find the spaghetti monster incident and others like it so abhorrent. It's why that these are not situations where we should just be accommodating so that we can all get along. By doing that, we reinforce the sense of entitlement. We shore up the belief that religion is different, special, and untouchable, and that no matter how silly the beliefs, if they can be dressed up as a proper religion, then you are entitled to have those beliefs protected and respected, and your delicate sensibilities defended from any assault. That is a self-reinforcing circle. It's a circle of ignorance. It's a circle that reinforces ignorance, division, dispute. It holds us back, and it's a circle that needs to be broken. Now, some people with whom I've had these discussions seem oblivious to the difference between respecting people and their rights to hold beliefs with the respecting of the beliefs themselves. Sure, it's good to treat people with respect and to respect their rights and respect their entitlement to believe what the fuck they like, but don't tell us that we have to respect the beliefs themselves. It's a different thing. If we respect stupid beliefs, we're not showing our own intellectual capacity and honesty any respect or decency or integrity. Our society is not going to be a better place by simply acceding to beliefs and letting them encroach on the rest of us. We can treat people with dignity and respect without being so damned polite that we're scared to challenge irrational views which impose on others. And that is why the spaghetti monster ban is not just a trivial, silly piece of political correctness gone mad, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. What it is a reflection of the expectations, which are bizarrely in this day and age actually growing rather than fading in society, that one has to respect just about anything that people want to believe, do, act upon, promote, if it's connected with a religion. And that's just a fallacious position to take. Fight it.